I'm here with Daniel Skaber. After a couple attempts at trying to start the podcast up, my mobile studio had some mishaps, but here we are. Now we're going. And thanks for having me in North Carolina at your awesome new foam printing project. It's incredible. You have ambitions of printing on Mars. It's almost like hard to for me to wrap my head around here on Earth, but yeah, thanks for it.
I'm really happy you came on such short notice. You told me to reach out to you when it's ready to go, and you came pretty quick, so which was awesome.
Yeah, at first I saw you sent me that picture. I thought it was a rendering of the printer, but it was really the printer, I guess, superimposed on another picture. So it was photoshopped, but a real picture.
Yeah, it also doesn't look like anything you've seen before, right? So it's
Mars.
Yeah.
It really doesn't look like anything I've seen before. I guess let's start with the idea was to print on Mars. How did you go about designing the printer with that intention?
It was just a couple iterations, really. My first design kind of looked like a R2-D2 with a telescoping arm, but after looking at it for some time, I realized that wasn't going to work. So I just broke it down to the simple requirements of what the machine would have to do, and tried to design it in a way that would be really, really easy to build, because I was going to be the one building it. So most of the parts are the same, so like all the arms and the legs are exactly the same. So making it was actually incredibly easy. It only took about a month to make. So
yeah, kind of uniquely, I think my audience is a little familiar with 3D printing and in construction, large scale, but what they're not familiar with is the parameters applying those things in space. So what are some of the extra considerations you took?
So the 3D printers that I've seen, like the large gantry style ones, those would never make it in space, really. Just the idea of just blowing up a CNC machine and making a huge one to print houses, I don't think is going to work. But size was a big thing. So making it small and open up like a transformer was one of the big ideas that I really wanted to get. So I think on Mars a lot of things will go through like tunnels, so it's designed to be able to go through pretty small tunnels. So
interesting. It just made me think of, you use expanding foam. Is there a danger having expanding foam in a tunnel?
I don't think so. So the print materials that I'm using now probably won't be the print materials that would be used on Mars. So this is more of a proof of concept of the technique that would be how to build rather than what I'm building with. So expanding foam works here. It could work on Mars. Cured foam is good to negative 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Unfortunately, uncured foam has to be within a pretty warm range. I think it's around 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So in order to use expanding foam on Mars, it would really have to have some sort of bubble that's inflated first and then print inside of a prepared environment for the print materials.
Or like underground, sealed off. When you say bubble, that could be above or below?
Well, it would probably be partially above ground at first. So I envision that there would be a whole fleet of robots really that are going to need to be involved in an entire construction process on Mars. So just the logistics of moving material around and building was one of the goals that I was trying to accomplish here.
So your system, which you've already built and to many degrees is functioning, it is consistent of not just one but two apparati, I don't know. But there's the builder and the dozer.
Yeah, there's two robots so far. There's plans for more.
Can you explain and differentiate the two?
So the names are just kind of what we've been calling them. They might not be the final names, but builder is the one that builds, and dozer is he dozes. So he can prepare the site, move materials around, and he can bury the structure with the local materials. So I think it's important to use more local materials than materials that you have to bring on the job site. So really minimizing the amount of material that is needed for the print was a goal of mine. And I think using a thin wall concrete with carbon fiber reinforcement is going to work really well for that.
So yesterday I saw like maybe day 3 of testing on this site with the printer. You've mentioned you were doing some other testing in your garage. But this is really like version 1.0, right?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that test that is in that last video, I'm probably going to cut that out and start over. There's a higher density foam that I was experimenting with. Unfortunately, it wasn't available when I was buying the foam for this print, so I bought a lower density foam, and it turned out it's not working as well as the higher density foam. So I ordered some high density foam. It's going to take a few days to get here, and then we'll probably just cut that out and start over. The print that we did in the garage worked out really, really well, and we recorded all the nozzle sizes. So I've been trying different nozzle sizes, different speeds, and I think we have a combination that's going to work really well. So I'm just going to cut this out and continue with what worked before.
Yeah, in your garage, was the door closed so that less wind variables?
No, the door was open. It was at night, so the one variable that I didn't realize had a big impact was direct sunlight. There's a light sensor that is used for the distance of the foam head, and as soon as we started printing here, there was some trouble that we noticed right away that was being caused by direct sunlight and shadow. So if it's going from direct sunlight to a shadow, it was throwing it off. It was getting the distance wrong. So we'll just print at night. It's no big deal.
So your business requires you to have hardware and software understanding to some degree. I mean, you built a system and it runs with custom software. What was that process like for you tackling those things that like you may be more or less competent at?
Yeah, so I'm a total amateur in programming. I've taken one programming class in college in C.
It's a good foundation.
Yeah, it is, but I understand programming not on the level that I could just sit down and write my own code from scratch. But what I did was I just looked up other projects online, and I just copied and pasted pieces of code, and mostly just trial and error. See what this does, see what that does. But in the very beginning, I actually hired somebody from Kenya that was kind of like my mentor that was teaching me how to program on the Arduinos. But yeah, so that was a huge help, having somebody available that could just answer my questions really quickly, and we were able to progress really fast.
Was it difficult to find that person that was really helpful for you?
I hired a couple people right off the bat. I posted up the project online, hired a couple people, and within a few days, I clicked with one person a lot more than the others. So there was like firms, like companies that had like lots of programmers. I really just wanted like one person, one contact point to do it with.
That way they learn your project, and it's not relearning what's going on every time you talk to them.
Yep. So.
All right, and your 3D printing experience before this?
I've actually never seen a 3D printer before this. So, well, other than like on Google, but
like a little plastic one, even.
I've seen like the little plastic one, but I've never seen one operate until now. Well,
that's crazy.
Until this one. So, yeah.
You grew up in North Carolina, or
no? I grew up near Chicago.
Rural areas, or
no, suburbs. So grew up in the suburbs.
How did you avoid ever seeing a printer?
I don't know. It just, I mean, I remember seeing Apis Core print like the first 3D printed building in Moscow. I remember seeing it in the news back when it was like brand new. I think 2016 or something. I said, "Oh wow, that's cool."
That's like one of the first projects I saw too. That and the Icon project. Both of them said they were $10,000 or something, and everybody got all excited about 3D printed construction.
The building is $10,000.
Well, nobody's delivering $10,000 houses, so
yeah. Yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't really think like too much past that. It wasn't until recently that I started thinking more about it, and really it was about SpaceX, just seeing what they've been doing, and the prospect of actually getting back up into space with some more force is what changed everything for me.
So what's next?
So I'm going to print a couple buildings here on this property, just to get learn a lot of things. So really just learn all the things that I need to learn to sit back down at a computer and design version 2. So I keep a list of all the changes that I want to make, which is huge, but it's version 2 it needs to be like not the final version, but a version that's going to work. So you push a button.
On Mars?
No, on Earth. So
and then
the Mars version would be
version 3.
Yeah, version 3 might be for Mars, but I think it's going to work. So a lot of people, when I say, oh, it's going to install Windows, it's going to do electrical, it's going to do all these things, it doesn't seem realistic. But I have the ideas that would make it possible. So.
And you mentioned some other machines besides the builder and the dozer. Where does the fleet expand to?
So there would need to site preparation. The structure is designed to be underground, or at least partially underground. So the way I envision it is like an excavator, like a robotic excavator, that just plants in one spot and just digs out that spherical shape and piles up the dirt right out on the outside of that sphere, so that when the sphere is built, there's a lot of the materials ready to go for dozer to just cover up the top. So that, like, dozer probably couldn't dig out a hole like that, but there's machines that can, like excavators can do it. So like an automated excavator.
What about a drone that drops some TNT or something?
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. It's just a bomb. One bomb, make a crater.
Well, how does the drone fly if there's no atmosphere? I don't know.
They have drones there's a drone on Mars.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the first drone went up with the last, it's pretty tough. There's very little atmosphere, so I think the blades have to spin at like a ridiculous RPM for it to fly.
Oh, wow.
But it works.
And are you excited about the future opportunity of going to space one day, and what level would Mars need to be for it to be compelling to you?
Well, yeah, I would definitely love to go to space. Going to moving to Mars, possibly. It would, I really think that a city on Mars is going to happen in the future, and I would want to go. I think that would be something that would be a really interesting experience, I think.
Yeah. Personally, it's not for me.
It's not for you, yeah. Yeah, it's. I've always been excited about it since I was a kid. So, I got a degree in aerospace engineering. I was like gung ho about it. Graduated in 2011, same year that the space shuttle retired, and for the next 10 years, no humans launched from U.S. soil. So,
I remember around that time, everyone was told humans would go to Mars by 2030.
Yeah.
But it actually is starting to seem pretty realistic.
It does, yeah. With the progress they're making in Texas, I mean, it's pretty exciting. I'm thrilled to see it happen. Like,
you mentioned you're kind of drawn to Texas as a future location.
Yeah. So, ultimate goal would be to build like a prototype Mars community. So before a city is established on Mars, I think it would make a lot of sense to practice building those things on Earth.
Like the Icon project with NASA, they have people living there, I think, for 2 years or 1 year.
Yeah,
or
but
something.
Those projects are so limited in the amount of people that are involved.
Yeah,
so
I think it's
like
4 people.
It's like 4 people. So I think this would be more of an experience that a lot of people could come to, almost like a resort that people would come and experience what it would be like on Mars without actually going to Mars.
Yeah.
And I think Texas is a pretty fitting place. One, it could be close to SpaceX. There's plenty of desert out there that looks sort of like Mars.
In the event people have the option to go to Mars, whether it's in a work or vacation setting, it seemed very necessary to have some kind of simulation of that for people to get comfortable with.
Yeah, definitely. So and a lot of things that need to be ironed out before they get loaded up onto a spacecraft and sent, millions of miles away. I think it's millions of miles. I'm not sure, but
Big distance.
yeah, it's pretty far away, so it'd be a good idea to test those systems on Earth. Looking forward to getting out to Texas and finding some property and hopefully getting started in the next maybe year.
And
Yeah.
what are the critical hurdles in that year?
Well, the machine has to work, so it needs to be reliable enough where it's as easy as just pushing a couple buttons and it makes structures. So that would be the first step. Also, version 2 of the robot would be necessary to make much larger structures. So yeah, we'll just start building and we'll see where it goes from there.
What do you have to say about people who make a pitch deck and spend all their time fundraising, selling dreams?
I know somebody like that. It's pretty terrible because you go ask for money and you go ask 100 people for money and 99 times they say no. So it's pretty probably a pretty tough job to do. But yeah, actually I have a friend of mine that's starting a drone company, a drone freight company that was successful in raising a bunch of money. So it's I think it's going to be exciting to see what they do.
Yeah, it's such a scary path to me. Like, I'm interested in startups and stuff, but I think it would be so to try to raise money for something before you've started working on it yourself. It just seems so crazy to me. I have friends who do it too. Like, they have a dream, they want to sell the pitch deck, they try to raise money. Some of them have raised money, and some of it's working out now. So it's like not a flawed.
Yeah, it's definitely, if somebody dropped $100 million in my lap, it would definitely change my plans for sure. Right now I have a lot of time that I can devote to this project, and I have some money that I get on a monthly basis that I'm devoting to the project. But
Yeah, this isn't your first entrepreneurial pursuit.
No, yeah, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, so I never got a job ever. Like so, I've always just started companies. We sold or made a salvage parts company for motorcycles.
Was that the first company?
Yeah, that was the first. I actually started doing that before college. Really, I was in high school. Started just buying motorcycles, taking them apart, and selling the parts on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
We still have that company today. So yeah, a couple of different companies that we've made in the past. This campground that we're on started about 5 years ago. So it's going pretty well, and I'm pretty happy with it. So
Yeah, it's cool. You mentioned you had another business similar to the motorcycle parts thing, but it wasn't taking them apart. You kind of pivoted.
yeah, so for the salvage company, we were listing parts on eBay, and it was terribly inefficient. So we hired a programmer and developed a piece of software. It's called MotoLister. It's used by all the companies that sell power sports parts on eBay. So originally it was just designed for us to use in-house,
Mm-hmm.
but as word got out what we were using, a lot of the competitors were asking us to give it to them, to release it to them. It wasn't until somebody made a suggestion that we release it on a subscription basis that totally made sense. So it's kind of like we released software that hurt our first company, but it benefited more than it hurt, because software is a nice industry to be in. I think the costs are so low once everything is up and running. It's almost like you're selling like virtual stuff.
Yeah, this guy on YouTube, Alex Hormozy, had a great way. He broke down like the 4 ways to scale that people can have, like scalability. Is one is software, one is through financing, like raising money, one is through having employees, and the other one is through media.
Okay. Yeah, it's software is really it's incredibly scalable.
You can reach the whole world with one line.
Yeah, so you think about something like Facebook, like these things aren't terribly difficult to make. I guess that it's harder to get people to use them. So when we launched the software, we thought like overnight it was going to change like the whole industry, like everybody should use our software, but it turned out it took a little bit of convincing. especially people don't like change. In business, really, like if you had to switch how you do everything, it's not really something that's appealing. But
Yeah, I read somewhere something needs to have a 25% improvement to be compelling enough to switch from what you're already used to. Even if it's 10% better, it's not worth the switch.
yeah, yeah, that's probably true.
You mentioned you now drive an electric motorcycle, so you really must love motorcycles to have.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
You don't miss the sounds?
What?
You don't miss?
No, I love the electric motorcycle. I have a Zero FXS. I sold my car and got one of those, and I'm never going back to like a gasoline powered one. It's so fast. I'm the first one off the line, like, and it's like costs nothing to maintain and charge. So, I definitely recommend it for everybody.
It's so funny to me when people who you would never are about like frilly things and looks all of a sudden are like, but what about the sound it used to make? Like,
yeah. It's
like, this one's faster.
I mean, really, you hear the sound of the wind, and that's it. And it's great.
Yeah, cool. So the company you started 6 months ago, you're devoting currently basically all of your time besides managing this property. You have the Airbnbs and the construction project going on.
Yeah, so I started this project about 6 months ago, and I've been like really 100% with this project. So everything else has kind of been put on the back burner. But
enabled by your previous startup.
Yeah. So yeah, the previous companies, they're pretty automated now.
Mm-hmm.
So I have very like little involvement. I read a book, 4 Hour Work Week.
Cool.
And it kind of changed my perspective on how work is done. So yeah.
Why do you think you never wanted to get a job? Was that like a natural inclination or just happenstance?
I had an internship at a startup called My Sky Aircraft in Florida. We were trying to manufacture light sport aircraft. And there was one day I was talking to my boss, and he described how an engineer is like a tool. You just use it, and then when you don't need it anymore, you get rid of it. And it was kind of like, am I a tool? Do I really want to be a tool? So yeah, I decided to go a different route. It seemed like the aerospace industry was kind of going on a downward trend at the time. Like, space shuttle was retiring. Concorde, we used to have supersonic passenger flights. We don't have that anymore. So I just went a different route.
Yeah, bosses shoot themselves in the foot sometimes. Don't they?
Yeah. So, but it was a fun experience. They were trying to raise money.
Mm-hmm.
So the owner had enough money to take it to like a factory to the factory level where. But then I think it was 2008, the recession, and all of his assets were no longer as valuable as they were before. So it was really just like a couple months of looking for money, and it was pretty aggravating, just like
in the worst time ever to look.
Yeah, exactly. So and sitting and waiting for money. So, but I did learn a lot there. So it was a lot of fun.
Maybe with that knowledge, you set yourself up to not be dependent on like fundraising in order for the continuity of your business.
Yeah.
At the moment, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think like most of the companies that I've been in business with my brother for like since we were, I think, in our early 20s. So I think we have a different approach than what most companies do. I think you mentioned that most companies like have an idea, make a pitch deck, and then go try to raise the money. Whereas we've really tried to just like get to a positive cash flow as
minimum viable product.
Yeah, yep, and just get to a positive cash flow as quickly as possible.
Make it, improve it, scale it.
Yep. So yeah, I don't know if it's the best approach, but I mean it's working so far for me.
I think it's better for your like health.
Yeah, maybe.
At least you're a little bit more in control of your own destiny when you don't have tons of overhead and like other people's well-being that you need to like convince someone else to give you money to take care of. That's
and then you're kind of on a leash with them. Like they're kind of going to determine what you do and what you don't do. So being self-funded, I think, gives you the freedom to just do what you think is right.
Yeah, it shows in the companies I visit. You can tell when there's a lot of stakeholders involved. Things get more like
It's all about money. Like
complicated. There's things they don't want to show. There's like they're trying to keep more secrets. They're much less open as opposed to companies like yours where it's like one guy started it, has decision making. Like when you can talk to the decision maker.
Yeah, it's much easier.
Much easier. But even the decision maker at the other companies, they might be the CEO. They're not the decision maker necessarily.
Right. Yeah.
But I guess to grow, you need to fundraise eventually.
Right. Yeah, so to hire more people, I would definitely need to fundraise. I couldn't afford to hire, like, multiple people. I could probably hire one or two, but if I was to go beyond that, I would need to raise money first.
And what would those first 2 hires be?
So probably another engineer, just to get the reliability of the machine to be where it needs to be. So
hardware, software, materials?
Both. I think software we can get through contract work pretty easily. Just hardware. So like a machine, like somebody that can do machining and make stuff really. That's probably what we'd start with.
At the moment, you said you're not using many custom parts.
Yeah, no. Most of the parts are available on Amazon that we've used. They're not like probably the best that I could, but they're inexpensive and they show up really quickly. So it was really easy to prototype with them.
If someone has a crazy idea for a robot machine, is it just possible now to order the parts and assemble it?
Yeah, for sure.
Like how does somebody go about something like that?
Well, so Arduino is a little like microcontroller, and there's a lot of accessories that go with it, and it makes it really, really easy to do complicated things. So I think technologically it has become very easy to make things that can do incredible things.
Yeah, and I guess when you really zoom into the issue, somebody's had something similar in some other form.
Yeah, so
it's about
exactly.
Asking the right questions, or where are you asking the questions?
Yeah, I'm just at like Google mostly.
Yeah.
Google,
just general
YouTube.
Google.
Yeah, so like to make the robot work over the internet, there's just a lot of research, and stumbled upon WebRTC. It's web apps that are or web APIs that are used by like Zoom and things like that. So I stumbled a couple of like research papers that were showing how it's going to be applicable to operating machinery. And I found on YouTube there was like 3 or 4 YouTube videos of people that made like little RC cars that could do what I needed to do, operate over the internet in real time. But it wasn't until I found like this example code that I just took the code, I stripped out all the extra stuff, and it worked. So it actually works really well. I was quite surprised by that.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, you're not really looking for any more. It seems like you're not looking for anything. Like you have everything you need, and it's just kind of learning as you go. Yeah,
it's just chipping away at all the little steps. So there are just so many little things that need to go right and work well. So as the problem arises, you just try different solutions and see what works.
Yesterday, we posted a TikTok video. I got a bunch of views. Maybe we can go through some of the comments and answer them.
Yeah, sure.
One of them that was interesting, I forgot to ask. So you finished printing the machine, or you finished printing the foam. How do you get the thing out?
Yeah, it doesn't go. It doesn't shoot out the top.
In the video, the hole was pretty small. So
yeah, so the hole is small. This is a very simplified version where I kept the door opening really small for now, so that when I do the carbon fiber stitching, I don't have to avoid a giant door. So I can just stitch right over a small hole and then cut that out later. But in the future, instead of cutting out the door, I would just print and then turn around, print the other way, and print, and so that there is a door from the beginning. And that would allow Dozer to go out and go get more material.
Yeah, I would think if you could tilt the head of the extruder, foam could even spray like even directly up and build in any direction. Like you could build sideways, out.
Yeah, there's definitely it's definitely possible. You could build horizontally with foam.
But the axis of your robot doesn't twist at the extruder head yet?
No. So I kept everything pretty simple in that regard. So
For wire
that
management.
everything is at the same distance away. So all the tool heads, I don't have to position them because they're at the exact distance that they need to be. So in all reality, it's just one surface. So it made it a lot easier. But probably version 2 would have more control on the nozzle head.
Doesn't foam need air to expand?
I was kind of I'm not sure. I don't think so. It's a two-part foam, so I believe the chemical reaction is just between those two components. The environment definitely has an impact on the curing of the foam. As we talked about earlier, like if this was to be done on Mars, it would need some sort of a bubble to create that environment for it to actually operate.
I don't know how much weight we should assign to the TikTok commenters, but somebody said I think it's a chemical reaction. Foam gets the gas from the reaction.
I don't think so. I don't think it does. But I haven't tested that yet, and it wasn't in the data sheet, so we'll find out.
Somebody said that's like 50K of great stuff.
No, what was there is actually less than 1,000. Prices have gone up pretty drastically, but that wall was less than 1,000. Unfortunately, we're probably gonna cut it out and start over, just because the print quality is not what we've not as nice as what we were able to do before with different foam. So waiting on that other foam, and in a few days, hopefully, we'll get back to printing.
This isn't a question, but Moon Domes would love to try it out with biomaterials. Have you ever considered? I don't know what that means. Maybe poo.
Yeah, maybe poo. So the print material can be changed. So I'm not only printing with foam. I'm going to be printing with concrete. I'm stitching with carbon fiber. So it's a multiple material printer, and I think changing out the print material is not going to be as difficult as it seems.
The foam will heat up Mars, melting the ice and cause tornadoes and hurricanes.
I love. There's so many environmentalists already worried about
Tornadoes and hurricanes.
Environment on Mars, and there's going to be climate change. Isn't climate change on Mars a good thing? Wouldn't we want to change the climate on Mars to be more hospitable for us?
And who cares if there's a hurricane? I mean, I guess if we build there, we care.
Well, the important thing to note is that the structure, it does look flimsy in that, but that is just the outer layer of insulation, and that's what allows us to attach all of the other things to it. So the carbon fiber reinforcement gets attached to the foam, and I think that's a unique thing with this machine as opposed to others is that most 3D printers, they just print with the concrete material, and there is no reinforcement in the material. So by using the carbon fiber, we're able to use a very thin layer of concrete and achieve pretty good strength.
A lot of people have said they want to implement more complex systems, multi-part stuff, but I saw the video you had it going on.
Yeah, I saw a printer that prints plastic parts and lays carbon fiber inside the plastic. So it's very similar to what I'm trying to do, and the results are awesome. Their parts are lighter than aluminum and stronger than steel. So it's pretty incredible just
plastic
to have
and carbon fiber.
Plastic and carbon fiber.
And the carbon fiber goes in the wet.
It goes, yeah. So it goes into the plastic as it's wet, and you can program the machine to lay the carbon fiber in the direction that would give you the best strength. So really, it's a plastic part with the strength of carbon fiber.
Generally, I hate plastic, but I'll make an exception if there's carbon fiber in it.
Yeah. So
how long did the wall in the video take so far, and is the size dependent on the drying time?
So the cure time on the foam is actually really, really fast. It's about in about 30 to 60 seconds. It's dry to the touch. So we're still experimenting with the speeds of the machine. The speed that's shown in that video, that was way too fast. it was making the wall way too thin. So that took probably, I'm going to say 3 hours of print time. And it's about 4 feet high or so.
Mm-hmm. That's fast.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
It's nice you don't have to, with printing concrete, if you stop, you need to do a bonding layer.
Right.
Which is expensive, like a dual bond epoxy or something.
And they do have to stop, right? They can't build an 8-foot wall in one shot.
Some can.
Some can? Okay.
Yeah. Most can't. And I haven't seen any completed monolithic structures that are one shot. The guys that do one shot build in elements, so they'll do like a 6-foot wall segment up the whole way, and then they'll start another 6-foot segment.
Okay. Yeah, it's a cool idea what they're doing, but it's just one step of a bigger construction project. Like, there's still, it's just the cinder blocks really what they're printing, and cinder blocks are pretty quick to lay. Like, if you've ever seen a house go up with cinder blocks, it's pretty quick. So, yeah, I think the advantages of 3D printing in construction need to go beyond trying to mimic what previous technologies have done.
There's a lot of environmentalist comments about Mars.
Yeah,
save the turtles of Mars.
It's like we're going to pollute Mars with foam now. So
I mean, if we go there, we'll probably pollute it, but it's for humans. So.
Right. I mean,
ideally, we pollute as little as possible. But who's to say what's the worst pollution? Like, some people will say the stuff from the solar panels is bad for the environment, or like the way you get the materials to do something that's less bad for you. Like, it's so complex. It's hard for me to assign. I feel like I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, there's so much embodied energy that's in the buildings that we're building today.
Carbon
that isn't factored in. So yeah, you can build a huge house with solar panels and call it a green house, but how much of an environmental impact was it actually to get those materials, to bring them to the job site, to take them out of the ground, to cut down the trees, to do all those things to build that house? It's a lot, and I think that should change. So I want to use as little material as possible, and yeah, that's the goal.
There's way too many comments about the material, like you can't use foam on Mars.
Or, yeah, but a lot of comments are about the temperature. So foam can actually, it's stable down to negative 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Mm-hmm. So I think it's within reason. But once it's buried with the local material, I don't think it's going to get those temperatures, especially if it's heated on the inside.
So long as you print it on a 60-degree day.
Yeah, you just got to wait for those sunny days on Mars and print then.
A nice spring day on Mars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was great. You posted that. There was a lot of comments in there. So you didn't put a lot of information about the video, and there was people saying like, "Oh, you should print concrete inside of that." I was like, "You got it," So there's more
people wrote that.
More videos coming. Yeah. So.
Yeah, with 290 comments, people say everything.
Yeah, I like the one that said if I could fart and knock it down. But
there's been some wild comments. Like, one group was printing mud, and it was like right after you eat Taco Bell. It's like it's ridiculous. 1 million views just because it was stupid comments. It's so unpredictable with the internet and virality and.
Right. Yeah.
I try to build just cool content. Like, the videos that get 1,000 views are just as important as the videos that get 1 million views.
Well, I hope we get 1 million views.
Me too.
But
so in the future, right now you seem content working on this on your own. You're not trying to blitz scale at the moment. What are the future ambitions for the company when we look 10 years or 20 years or 30 years ahead?
Well, really, it's still up for debate on where this goes. Going to try to prove the concept here, and I have enough money to fund the projects that I'm doing here and to prove that it can be done. I think if I get it to the point of just pushing a button, say you're ready to print a house, and you say yes, you pick which how many windows and things like that. If we get to that point, I think it's going to change where we go with this. So I don't think that it would be very easy to get permitted, like a permitted structure built, but really that wasn't the goal. I think a lot of the 3D printer companies, that is the goal, because that is the way to make money, really. But it's not really about making money for me. I want to do this to really just explore the possibilities of what 3D printing could do for construction.
Yeah, and even forget making the money. You just need the money to do the projects.
Yeah, and so if I have enough to do that, then I'm going to keep going. So, but I will need more people. So at some point, I will probably need to raise some money. There's just looking at different applications of what it could be used for. So I don't foresee it being like built in a house in the suburbs, like in a neighborhood or something. But I think as like agricultural buildings, on a farm or something like that, or greenhouses, I think it would make a pretty awesome greenhouse. So after the foam is printed, there's another arm that has like a router bit on it, cuts out windows and places the windows. So if we fill up the whole upper half with windows, we'll really reduce how much concrete is used. So really it would just be like the amount of concrete that's needed in between windows to hold everything together. And I'm excited for that prospect, because that's something that would be needed for MarsBase. We need greenhouses for food manufacturing, like growing food. So
yeah, generally concrete's something you only want to use as little of as possible for its structural integrity.
Yeah, we're testing different materials. Like biomaterials would be cool. I think materials from Mars would be cool, although I don't know if I can get my hands on some Martian soil. Yeah, but I think like basalt you can get on Mars, and there's some companies that show that you could print pretty well with basalt. So it doesn't have to be foam, it doesn't have to be concrete. It's really more of a general idea of constructing with no human intervention. I think that's the challenge. So bringing in materials and changing out like the pods inside the machine. So it's almost like changing a battery pack. So Dozer brings a materials pod to the machine and loads it up. So just if we use different, I think it'll be pretty easy to try out different materials once we get the pump going.
Yeah, I'd imagine your excavator machine would have to procure material too on Mars. So use local materials.
Yeah, so the idea is to bring as little alien material to Mars as possible. So use as much from Mars as possible. So with this structure, it's a very thin wall structure. It gets covered with the regolith from Mars, and if you consider the regolith as part of the structure, like 99% of the structure's mass is going to be the local material.
So if I come back here in a week or a month, what would I see next week, or what would I see next month?
Well, next week maybe not much, because I'm waiting on the foam, so it might be less than what is now, because I might just cut it out. But I'm coming back next week for a longer stay, and
so next month,
in
maybe
a month, yeah,
starting to cover it up, or
I hope so. Yeah, the carbon fiber stitching, although I have a working tool head that does it, it needs to be more reliable. So
you've done such a great job getting footage. It doesn't really matter whether I'm here or not. People will be able to see the process.
Yeah. So and I'll be making more. So the pump itself, the concrete pump, is something that I'm just starting developing. I have a pretty, I think, unique idea on how to do it. It's basically a giant electric caulking gun.
When you're on Mars, where do you get your power from?
Solar power mostly. Well, I mean, I guess it could be nuclear. The last rover they sent was nuclear powered. So there would probably be like nuclear power plants on Mars from pretty like early on. I think Elon Musk is already talking about making little reactors that are safe and efficient. But mostly just electric. Obviously, we're not going to be running like gas or diesel engines, so it's going to be electric powered. So both machines are all 100% electric. Dozer actually is solar powered for real. Builder has fake solar panels, but those could be pretty easily.
Man, when I was in Boca Chica filming the SpaceX project, I saw a Tesla in front of what the neighbor told me was Elon Musk's house, and it had this weird metal plate over the front of the hood.
Okay.
And now that I didn't realize that the Mars rover was nuclear powered. It's so small.
Right.
Elon, I bet, put a nuclear reactor in his Tesla.
No, I don't know about that.
Why would they? I was looking at the metal plate. That makes no sense. Why does it need that big fat metal plate over
I think that would be way too dangerous.
Not with the thick metal plate.
Yeah.
I don't know. Why is it dangerous?
Couldn't put it past them. Well, it's just
The
cars
radiation?
crash.
Okay, yes.
Cars crash sometimes.
Yes, very dangerous.
So you can't have a nuclear disaster every time a car crashes.
What if it's well engineered?
Yeah, I mean, it would be something to see, but it is cool that the robot on Mars has a nuclear power. But the previous one was solar powered, and the engineers thought it was only going to last for 6 months, and they thought in 6 months solar panels are going to get covered by dust, and it's not going to work anymore. It lasted 13 years, and it just so happens that there are these dust storms on Mars that were cleaning off the solar panels on a slightly regular basis, and that's what kept it alive for so long.
Nice.
So I think solar power is probably pretty realistic option. So
it's harder to order nuclear parts on Amazon.
Yeah, I don't think you can get any. So yeah, done some tests with like how much time it takes to charge and how much battery life you'll get out of it. So currently with Dozer's solar panels, it charges in like in one day's worth of charge. It can operate for 2 hours. So, and that's doing like some pretty heavy lifting. So just driving around, I've never tested just driving around like loosely with no real load on the motors, but I was doing a lot grading for 2 hours, and it worked really well.
Yeah, in an environment like Mars, there's going to be so much unpredictable stuff going on and such limited resources. So I'd imagine people will use things other than the way they're intended.
Yeah, it's well, I think they've sent these rovers there, and they're learning a lot. Like just the data that's coming back is going to make the future possible on Mars. So, the first missions that went there, they really didn't know what it was going to be like, and I think we know a lot more now. So, being able to plan for it, I think, is gonna make a difference.
The nuclear reactor, I guess, do you know a lot about that?
Not particularly.
Can you be close to it?
I think so. I'm not sure, but I think you can. Yeah, I mean, it's just like a self-sustained like system. It should last for like I forget what the number is, but like a ridiculous long time.
Would you need to scale up the size of your panels?
No. So the Builder robot has very large solar panels. So Dozer has smaller solar panels, but when they connect, they can connect electrically as well. So they can transfer their power from one to the other.
Do you think on Mars they'd consider abandoning Wi-Fi and using the wireless energy transfer?
Yeah, I was actually quite surprised at how limited Wi-Fi is. So outside, I think the range is only like 1,000 feet or something like that on Wi-Fi. There is a new Wi-Fi that works a lot farther.
Okay.
But it's a lot slower too. So, I mean, that's maybe there will be something better than Wi-Fi by the time we get there.
From my understanding, the Tesla principle of the wireless energy transfer it interferes with Wi-Fi, right?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
I don't know. So many interesting questions arise once you start talking about Mars because it's such a unique opportunity to make things differently.
Yeah, it's really, you can start from scratch. So I think we've grown so accustomed to just thinking like this is the way things are and like this is how they've always been. But that's not true. If you look 100 years ago, we weren't flying across oceans in large passenger jets. And I think if we just watch where technology goes in the future, it seems so like slow while you're living through it. But I think when you look back, it's a lot faster than we might imagine. But there's a lot of improvements in a lot of things. Like when I'm at a red light, I'm just thinking like, all these cars just sitting around, engines idling, and it's like, is this really the best we can do?
Mm-hmm.
So transportation system on Mars is not going to be like it is here. So just an overall like a reboot of society on how it could be done. And I think a lot of things will be learned as we do that, and hopefully would be applied here on Earth as well. So a lot of people say, why Mars? Why would we do that? That's so stupid. But I don't think they realize how much benefit they have on this planet from the stuff that was developed in space.
People do a lot of stupid things too. Like if somebody wants to do something and they're putting effort into it, they'll put less effort into something they don't want to do. So let them do the thing they want to do, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. What like Alex Honnold free climbing giant mountains and
Right.
stuff, like that's crazy, but it's cool.
Right. So yeah, I believe that people do what they want. If you really break it down, all your actions are really your choice. So what you choose to do is up to you. Yeah, but there's some comments like we're never going to make it to Mars. Never. Fact. Like, really? Like, people said that about breaking the sound barrier, and then look at that, it was broken. And so I think never say never is the right approach.
Yeah. Is there a big hurdle, like something stopping us? Like it doesn't seem that we've got the rovers there. We'll just send more stuff there.
Well, I mean, it's incredibly complicated to accomplish.
But which part would someone look at and say that's impossible?
Right. Exactly. So I think SpaceX won the contract from NASA to land Starship on the moon, and I think when that happens, I think landing on Mars is going to be like just the logical, like nobody's going to be able to say you can't go to Mars if they take Starship to the moon, which is really interesting because like that mission that they're going to do is just it's almost comical the way it's going to go down. They, as far as I understand, 2 astronauts are going to launch on not the Starship, not the lunar lander. The lunar lander, SpaceX's lunar lander is going to launch separately. They're going to rendezvous, I think, around the moon. So they're really going to go there in like this tiny vehicle, and then they're going to transfer to this enormous vehicle. So NASA's contract was they were looking for a lunar lander that could carry 2 astronauts in their gear. I think the requirements were like 850 pounds or something.
Sure.
But SpaceX's Starship can land like 100 times what they're ordering. So it's
they're going to send up like a huge box for like a little iPhone package.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be probably an interesting experience for the astronauts to go from this little capsule to like this ginormous one. But
I can't imagine they don't have some other things they'd like to bring up with them. Like if they've had the space, why not?
Yeah, right.
There's experiments or something.
Well, I mean, NASA's paying for it, so I mean, it's going to be up to them, really. So
if they spend taxpayer money on sending up a 90% empty ship,
yeah,
that's ridiculous. At least send up some experiments for people, like some grad student can see what their thing does.
Take Dozer. I'll donate Dozer and Builder to them.
I don't know what that would do for you yet. They're not really space ready, but
no.
If they're just looking for cargo.
Yeah, just some fun cargo. I mean, they sent the Musk's Roadster.
Yeah, that was cool.
So it's just a fun thing to send.
True. It can float around with hopefully it doesn't collide with the Roadster up there.
Yeah. So
first car crash in space.
It's gonna happen one day. So.
Anything else we didn't cover?
No, that's about it. I mean, I'm excited for you to come back. I hope that you'll come back and stay in the habitat and see what it's like.
Yeah, I will. That'll be a great
Mars
YouTube
house.
video for the future. And thanks for having me. It was great to meet you.
It was nice to meet you too.
It's the first of many.
Cool.